A legal decision that is throwing yet another wrench in the works for the already delayed recreational marijuana program here in New York State. So this is because of a lawsuit filed by a company that tried to get one of the first retail cannabis licenses here in New York to sell the stuff. They were initially supposed to go to people who had prior marijuana convictions in this state. But this company at issue now says that it was majority owned by someone who had a marijuana conviction, but it was in Michigan. And this company wasn't allowed to apply. Well, last night, a federal judge here in New York State put a hold on the state issuing licenses in 5 regions, including ours, because that's where this company wanted to set up shop. It's led to some concerns from the people who were selected for licenses. That includes Flower City Dispensary in Rochester. Listen.
I was devastated. The community that follows us is counting on us to deliver a regulated product and bring, supreme quality products to the market. And now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do so.
The hope is that New York State will appeal this and it can be reversed. But how long will that take? Can it be expedited? We don't know.
It is a complicated case that could have a big impact here, so we welcome live to the show Brendan Little, a litigator at Lippis Mathias here in Buffalo, to help us understand. We appreciate you coming in. And first off, I wonder if you can just kind of explain to us what the reasoning was here, what the federal judge, how he came to this conclusion, because 29 pages in the order that came out last night, and it's not a simple one.
Thanks for having me. And what the federal judge said was that the retail licensing application process is unconstitutional because it unfairly discriminates against out-of-state residents. It was giving New York residents an upper hand, which violates the former Commerce Clause.
So we're having a little bit of audio trouble with you there. Let's see if we can get that fixed. What did you say there right at the very end?
The judge determined that the Dormant Commerce Clause was violated in violation of the United States Constitution.
So for right now, Brendan, this is just limited to the 5 regions in the state, including here in Western New York, where this specific company that filed the lawsuit had applied for a license. The judge says that they can continue with the other parts of the state. They can continue to put out these licenses. But couldn't this lead to more lawsuits that would stop or at least put a pause on the entire program?
Certainly. There are a total of 14 regions that the state is divided up to, and as you said, Western New York being one of the 5 that are now part of this order. The other 9 can continue to move forward, but certainly given this decision, it's likely that there'll be other lawsuits filed next week, or the Office of Cannabis Management is going to decide to pause the entire program. There's a lot of corporate money involved in these types of operations, so certainly it wouldn't be surprising if someone tries to affect the other 9 regions that are still in play.
In terms of the timing, the state has maintained all along that we are going to be able to go to one of these dispensaries and legally buy marijuana before we ring in the new year. The executive director of the Cannabis Control Board has said that over and over, including live on this very show. Listen to what he said one time when we got to talk to him.
Yes, we'll have sales before the end of this calendar year. In some sales.
So some sales, he went on to say, quote, in some form. Doesn't this judge's decision all but guarantee that is not going to be the case, at least here in Western New York, as we kind of look at the time frame moving forward? And what about the rest of the state? I mean, is it going to be legal to go anywhere in this state and buy marijuana before the end of the year?
Absolutely. It's an uphill battle here in the Western New York region, as well as the other regions affected by the order. I think Finger Lakes, Mid-Hudson, Central New York, and Brooklyn. But the other 9 regions are certainly in play. But however, as I indicated before, it's likely we're probably going to see additional litigation next week, or the Office of Cannabis Management may pause the whole project, and it's probably unlikely we're going to see retail sales in the calendar year.
It's interesting here that the judge is referencing federal law, right? It's a federal judge. We're talking about the Federal Commerce Clause mentioned in this, because when we think of how the federal government factors into all of this, marijuana remains fully illegal at the federal level, right? Does this ruling give us any insight into that sort of legal friction between what they're saying in Washington, D.C. and what so many states around the country are now allowing?
It doesn't. Judge Sharp was certainly smart and to avoid that issue. This doesn't affect any doesn't give any opinion with respect to the legality of cannabis at the federal level. This solely has to do with the retail licensing process in the state of New York and how it affects out-of-state residents.
Brendan, I know that you have a team at your law firm that is, working on these businesses that are applying for these licenses and going through the process, which is not necessarily a simple one. What are you hearing in terms of just how frustrating maybe this is for people who, you feel like you're now right at that end result, and then we see this delay coming in?
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating. The goalposts are always moving. We're trying to advise clients day by day, week by week on how to guide through this process. And, for example, the cultivators or the individuals who have the cultivating licenses are going to be greatly affected because they've harvested millions of dollars of cannabis, but it may be precluded or prohibited from selling it to the retailers and at great economic harm.
Finally, Brendan, before I run out of time, I was just wanting to ask you about that because we've actually heard from some of the cultivators who worry that they're not going to be able to, it's not going to be legal to sell it by the time the product is ready. Will those folks, maybe let's say the local farms that we have here, do we believe they would be able to sell product to other regions of the state if things are delayed in Western New York? Yeah,
we're not aware of any kind of rules or regulations that preclude local farmers or local cultivators from selling to other regions, unless, of course, we have a new lawsuit or the rules are going to change from the state of New York. So hopefully they should be able to sell their product or the cannabis to the other regions that are not affected by the order.
Guess this is what happens sometimes, right? You get lawsuits, sometimes you get injunctions. We'll see how it plays out. I know people will be watching it closely. Brendan Little is with Lippis Mathias Law Firm here in Buffalo. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks for having me.